A local man's discrimination case is going all the way to the Supreme Court today. Gerald Bostock claims Clayton County fired him from a job as a child welfare services coordinator because he is gay. He says he was abruptly terminated after his employer found out he joined a gay-friendly softball league. The county, though, argues that he was fired for mismanaging money. Today, Supreme Court justices heard arguments in this case and two others focusing on the work rights of LGBT Americans. And this comes as one nonprofit group says 44% of the LGBT population lives in states where they are not protected from employment discrimination based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. The federal law could change, though, as the Supreme Court hears 3 cases involving LGBTQ discrimination issues and weighs whether the Maine civil rights law applies to LGBTQ rights as well. According to the Movement Advancement Project, a nonprofit think tank that researches equality issues, Georgia is among 26 states with no explicit prohibitions against discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity in state law. 21 states and the District of Columbia do offer that protection, while the remainder only covers sexual orientation or use an already existing sex discrimination law to protect against LGBTQ discrimination. And today, the Supreme Court justices heard the argument in these cases. They are going to have to continue to work this, though. We are expecting that information, the ruling from the justices, will come out next year in June of 2020. That would be in the middle of the presidential election. Since the same-sex marriage ruling, though, conservative Justice Brett Kavanaugh has replaced retiring Justice Anthony Kennedy, who authored the court's 4 major opinions that expanded gay rights.